Yes, welcome to Satsang and Meditation. A very, very warm welcome, and a big welcome to all of you who are joining us tonight or this morning for some of you from many different other countries of the world. The last two satsangs we were mainly sitting in silence, and I hope that you really enjoyed the depths of silence that we can share together. And sometimes it's also important to point out different things that are moving in our psyche, so that we can use whatever moves as a bridge to go within. So tonight Melly is on the computer and reads your comments and reads your questions. So if you have a pressing topic that you want me to talk about, please write it down, and Melly will pass it on to me. And I don't know if something comes that I have some wisdom around the topic. We were sharing today at a certain point recognizing somehow that it is so strange that most people around the world are not aware of how simple we are and how simple the so-called awakening is, or how simple it is to open to peace. Now forgive me, I can say that today, and if I look at my own journey, I've been kind of journeying so much and have tried so many different approaches and have experienced so many different meditations, always in the subtle hope that I will be free. And all the time overlooking the very fact that the moment I want something else than is, I'm not free. I'm caught in my personality structure into becoming. And freedom is really closer than that. Freedom is experiencing what is. Freedom is having no specific ideal about the next moment. Because the moment we have an ideal, we are not really here. We want to create or generate or live something that is more a mental concept rather than living here now. So maybe I can talk about this a little bit deeper.
And
but
also, from Emily, there's a question.
Yes, Emily.
It's been a terrible pandemic, but from a physician point of view, with the vaccine and Omicron variant, it's pretty mild now, and we are not getting the awful complications and deaths like before. So we are not too worried as we see the changing course of symptoms. However, what I see we are left with is a terrible pandemic of fear. Patients are now super fearful of everything. Maybe it started with COVID and the vaccine, but now they think every single medicine will kill them, and fear all the time. Despite spending a lot of time reassuring people, how can they be helped? And what is fear? How can I help people function and get through their day? It's very draining dealing with this excessive fear so often now.
Yes, I hope all of you who are actually following this recording that you could read Emily's question. It's a really important question. Maybe in short words, people are so fearful about everything in the aftermath of COVID, and even fearful around drugs, around medication, around life itself. Well, it's everywhere here too. No? Here we are experiencing the third flood within a few months, and people again lose their houses. And further north from here, where we are here, thanks God, it hasn't rained so much. But it comes to an incredible peak, and on one level it is absolutely terrible that people are so afraid, and another level that may be, an incentive to look for something that is more real than the story we tell ourselves about fear. And what does that mean? It means if we have an ideal not to be fearful, we will continue to be fearful. If we reject fear and resist fear, that resistance will create a stronger me structure, a stronger ego structure that is ready to fight, ready to escape, or to freeze, which means all the stress responses. And unfortunately, nobody or very few people have heard the great masters like Osho, or nowadays I would say Moji is also a beautiful master or teacher, and many others have a very simple message. And I want to join that message today because I've been exploring this to the maximum. Fear is only a problem as long as we want something else. Fear is an incredible complex reaction of the body-mind that is combined with a story that we tell ourselves about a certain situation. And very often we don't even know the situation. We're already incredibly fearful just around what is. And when we look a little bit deeper, what is, and it cannot be otherwise. So everything that we do with the isness of things is our interpretation to maintain a certain sense of self. That may sound very strange, no? And now that sense of self becomes not only individual, it becomes collective. Everyone is afraid. And very few use use the invitation to actually welcome the fear, to let it come in, to absorb it. Osho talked a lot about this in You New Mystica, a very beautiful book, a very beautiful series, where Hakim Sanai shares his insights. And Hakim Sanai was a very beautiful Sufi master many hundred years ago. So what does that mean? We very seldom see or experience reality as it is. There's a certain reality that is perceived through the eyes, through the ears, through our taste organs, through our sensibility of feeling and tasting, smelling, touching. You know? And these sense experiences create a picture of the now. And if the picture of the now doesn't fit into our ideals or expectations, we don't want the now, we want something else. We interpret the now as something hostile that we need to get rid of very quickly. And it doesn't work. The misunderstanding here is that we made a sense of me, a sense of self, a sense of solidity through the resistance against what is already experientially real. Are you following that? No? It's like there is something happening and we automatically resist it because then I, the false I of course, is separate from the happening. And the ego loves that. But it's an illusion. We have never been separate. We have always been a spacious consciousness. Now, that may, for some of you who are listening for the first time, that may be very fresh and new. How can we say that we are consciousness rather than a solid, objective self? It's very simple. When we ask ourselves, who is aware of hearing these words? You will say, I am. Well, are you the hearing? No, you are aware of the hearing. Are you the sound that you hear? No, you are aware of the sound. So who am I? Who are you? Prior to the hearing and prior to the interpretation of the sound. We don't find anyone. We don't find any objective sense of self there. Now, because we don't find anyone or anything, if you look into the psychology of many people who have experienced the difficulties in war and COVID and sickness and travel restrictions and poverty and homelessness and all these human sufferings, there was always an I involved in it. There was always a sense of self, a definition of me involved in it. And we completely overlook that when we question who is aware of the experience, who is aware of seeing, who is aware of touching, who is aware of hearing, we don't find anyone. We find space. We find openness. We find no object. And because no object is so scary for the old sense of self, people have become afraid of their inner emptiness. And then in psychology we say, well, you know, my life is so empty. I don't feel any purpose in life. I don't see any reason to live. I feel just depressed. Why is that? Because emptiness does not fit into any of our identification concepts. Emptiness is simply space. And yet when we explore a little bit deeper, we naturally have to come to the insight that this space that appears empty, that appears to hold every form, is actually not just empty. It holds all our potential. It holds every gift that we are, not that we can achieve, the gifts that we are. And what is that? We are peace. The mind is just too afraid to go so deep inside that we melt beyond the personality into the infinite cosmos. But the infinite cosmos is not something separate from our innermost being. It is who we are. And this is where meditation is so important. You know, so many meditators are so blissful the moment they are empty. And then the strange thing is they go back into the world and the whole emptiness is forgotten, and the identification and interpretation of the present moment is back there to recreate a separate sense of self. I really wonder at this setup from existence, because it's not even personal. It's like 99.999% of humanity is caught in this. And then these moments, why do we love meditation, at least those of you who have gone a little bit deeper into it? Because we just disappear. And in that disappearance there's a knowing that the real I, that which I have always been, cannot disappear. Why not? Because it has never been an object. So this is what Osho tried to say when he wanted on his samadhi to be written, never born, never died, only visited this planet for a certain time. And then the absurdity of it is, what makes us really happy in meditation is because our argument stops, our interpretation stops, our judgment stops, our need to change something stops. And when that stops, change is all the time happening, whether we want it or not. So when we go with the isness of things, when we go with this moment-to-moment living now, is there a problem when there's no interpretation? Is there a problem when we see that the mind has its function, it interprets and it judges and it labels, and we are so used to it that we overlook that this labeling recreates a personal sense of self, a personality. So what came so strong when we talked this morning is like, how come we don't see what is? And when we then see, how much more simple can awakening be? What is, and it can't be otherwise. So the only thing we can do is we can undo the fighting. And then we come to this place where we realize, this famous quote is also from Unio Mystica. We realize that the space we are is unconditional acceptance. Acceptance what is. But it's not kind of an acceptance later. It's a state of acceptance. Where all fight is surrendered to the isness of things, to the spaciousness of consciousness. And the moment we stop interpreting, the moment we don't label, what arises is what is always here, which is choiceless awareness. Now, choiceless awareness in a society that is constantly choosing, and if you go to the supermarket and you have not just one laundry powder but 20 laundry powders, and you wonder which one I should choose, I wonder what choiceless awareness would do. It would simply, take one and go home. But instead of that, we get anxious. Oh my God, I hope I don't take the wrong one. I hope I have an organic one. And I hope it kind of saves my septic tank. Now, these are all relevant questions for the practical mind, but they are not relevant for our being. Our being has the capacity to see reality as it is. Is that difficult? No, because it is already. And we are part of it. And when we are part of it, and when we can relax, and when we don't need to fight and interpret and choose, then something much, much bigger functions through us. That, some of the course leaders who teach manifesting your own reality, they have some insights in this, but it is still quite limited because it still tries to improve the mind. Now, there's nothing wrong with improving the mind. I wish I could improve my mind a little bit more, because I keep forgetting things now. But our true nature is even more simple than that. And it doesn't contradict all our gifts. It doesn't deny all our capacities. It just holds the rainbow of our creativity in its loving arms of presence, rather than in the stressful becoming and hope for a better moment later. Are we getting that? If you can follow me, can you do like this? Or we just need a little feedback. If we don't follow me, if you get stressed and anxious, do like this. Great. I love that there is these hands and there's these hearts rising. How beautiful. What an invention. Now this invention of the emojis just moving upwards and dissolving into an explosion of nothingness is very significant. They appear, I love that, look at this. They appear, they rise, and then they pop into nothing. Exactly like our false personality. We have worked so hard to create this me, and I can tell from experience, I work hard. I became a doctor, and then I became a therapist, and then I became what they call a spiritual teacher. I don't know what that means. Teaching what is. It's a very, very hard skill. Ne? So, if I look at the ideals that I mentioned before, because that has been a very, very strong exploration for me, because I used to be such an idealistic mind. I knew what is right and what is good and what is interesting to achieve and what we need to pursue to the max. And it was, of course, very helpful because it was building something up that could say, I am an individual with these and these gifts. So that's the beginning of our life, maybe until we are 35. But then it becomes, more or less meaningless to become more. And where's the end? And then I was lucky enough to have a master that kept saying, well, becoming is driving you crazy. Why? Because becoming means you need to be something that is not, or at least not yet. And the more becoming happens, the more you run after a goal, and the goal is as fast as you're running. It's like running after the horizon. You can go with the speed of light, and the horizon just moves in the same speed that you want to pursue. So, to come back to ideals, this is what is one of the early childhood programs that unknowingly or maybe knowingly we have we learn the first swear words. We learn good and bad, and right and wrong, and high and low. And our parents, because they don't know who they are as consciousness, at least many of our parents, they are very keen to give us a definition. So they tell us who we are. And then the outer world is actually threatening to respond according to the image that we are bringing up. If we are doing something bad, we are bad. If we are doing something good, we are good. And then naturally the mind wants to choose, for most of us, for the goody-goodies at least, they want to choose the good. For the baddies, they want to choose the bad. But it's still totally divided. And when you explore yourself a little bit deeper, you realize, my God, I'm both. I'm good and bad. I'm right and wrong. I'm high and low. And I can, it seems like a human development. It's not wrong, but it's a development that needs to undevelop itself again. Otherwise we are in the prison of ideals and shoulds. And every ideal creates suffering. Why? Because I should be like this, and then I have to repress what I should not be. So I shouldn't be angry. I was brought up with a very authoritarian father and a very loving mother. And the authoritarian father had very strong ideas, how things should be. And he was very successful in his life. But he had all these opinions about who other people are. So I was brought up with the message that every man, except of course my father, and perhaps sometimes his sons, are wimps. They're just kind of hopeless people. Now he has forgotten that he is also a man. So unfortunately he had developed so many incredible skills that on the level of skill of sailing and skiing and being a handyman and being an oceanographic scientist, so many incredible achievements that every man in his presence felt inferior. That's why he didn't make many friends, because he basically was putting all the other men around him down. Now, you can imagine, I grew up trying to be the best in everything. For whom? To get a little love from Daddy. And I was the last one of eight children, and that, so he was very proud that he could make a child when he was 63. And so I was good. I was the best in school, and I did the best medical exam. And the better I was, the worse I felt. I remember my partner at the time, Angelika, when I had the medical exams, and I was freaking out before every exam. I was so scared that I would fail. And then I come back home with having passed the best of everyone. And she got so furious. She said, you're making such a drama out of not knowing, and you're always the best. There's something wrong. I don't regret it. I learned a lot in it, and especially I learned that what other people see in my own inner experience are completely different. When I started being a doctor and being exposed to patients, I felt like a complete failure. And yet I had this image of being a very successful doctor that knows everything. Until much, much later I realized that why did the patients love me very much is just not so much because of my skills. I was just sitting down with them and held their hand, especially when somebody had a heart attack or something terrible happened. And instead of kind of being super active to fix things, I was just holding their hand because they were so freaked out and shocked. And that gave me a nice reputation. So, I'm not saying this with the goal that you shouldn't achieve things. I'm just saying this, that allow your achievement to come from the joy of expanding skills, not forgetting that you are already a child of the universe, that on your being cannot be improved, because your being is not within the becoming. Your being, if you like, that sounds a little bit big, but your being is eternal. But the amazing thing is, in our human existence, those moments where we relax into what is are also the well of well-being, the well of skill, the well of love, the well of peace, the well of silence, the well of integrity. All these things that we try to achieve through becoming are actually arising, showing themselves as our innermost core. That's why, for those of you who are watching, who are working with people, if you resonate with them on their level of becoming, you will have all these ideas what they should do to heal. Perhaps some of these things may be helpful to heal the body. Perhaps some of these things may be helpful to have a more comfortable life. But when you come from a space of total presence, which means total acceptance, when your being, your isness, holds the patient in his or her isness, these people are usually called healers, because healing comes from wholeness. They are already whole, and they hold you in wholeness. And love is wholeness, presence is wholeness. And the symptoms of sickness are simply elements that have separated themselves from the wholeness, so that we can see that we forgot the wholeness. Because ultimately, whether we are healing or whether we are sick, we're all going to die. So until we die, maybe it's helpful to recognize our whole being with all its limitations and with all its gifts. So when we come back to these ideals, because that's such an important piece, no? Everyone wants to have a better life and have more money and have the best relationship, and not everybody achieves. Why? Because for some of us it's a natural unfolding when we are home that existence is abundant and we can become abundant. And for some of us, for whatever reason, maybe we had a house and the house got drowned in floods and it's not livable anymore, and we are now in a caravan or in a tent. Now, many of you, especially here in Australia, actually go and live in a tent when they go on holidays. So if we drop all interpretation how terrible it is to live in a tent and begin to sense the beauty of being connected with nature, the beauty that we can put our house up anywhere if the car still works. Many of these things, then then you come to a place when you look back in your life and you really enjoyed a very, very simple thing that wasn't happening before. Maybe you were hitchhiking and you had, this is my story here, you were hitchhiking and you had very limited money. And I remember I was hitchhiking through France and I was totally frustrated because there was so much traffic and nobody stopped, until a beautiful convertible, I think Cadillac or something, stopped with a very beautiful looking couple inside, and they drove me for hours and then they invited me for an incredible lunch in a restaurant. And did I create that? Did I hope for it? Was I anxious about it? No, it was just an unfolding of isness. And I have many stories like this. Stories where the ideal and the goal went into the background and the isness of being came to the foreground. And I think every intelligent manifestation course will teach you elements of this. But you cannot teach being because you are already. You can only weed what is not part of being, and the being gets unveiled. It's actually, it could be a nice title for a course, Unveiling Your Being. Now, why are ideals so detrimental? Because when I should be like this, I should not be like that. And whatever I should not be doesn't go away. It goes underground. It kind of hides itself because your psyche, your ego resists it. I talked about my father. Well, my resistance was, I learned that anger is really detrimental and I should never be angry. And then I came to Pune and did my first course, and I was told I'm so angry, and I couldn't believe it until I discovered it. It's so true. It went so deep underground because I should not be angry. And that should not created it created a stomach ulcer when I was 6. Stomach is holding anger. No? So it becomes physical. So whatever we resist is not going away. It will be after you. It will follow you. But the resistance is so empowering for the ego because the ego believes it can do something about things. On a certain practical level, that may even be true. But it creates, what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. Every should not that is repressed creates more psychological pain. And then we can realize that pain is our creation because it's our interpretation of reality. We interpret that things should not happen the way they do. Now it's a bit tricky when we talk about things outside of ourselves where we don't have any control. For example, this crazy Ukrainian war. Of course my mind says this should not happen. But it does, doesn't it? So rather than following what should or should not happen outside of ourselves, I think it's really important to turn it around and investigate what we deny inside. Maybe I should not get angry about the war. Maybe I should get angry about the war. Maybe I should follow a peace movement. Maybe I should not kill these millions of ants that sometimes invade my house because it's violent. You see the point? It's like the shoulds and the should nots and the ideal are really pointers. You cannot stop that in your mind, but you can wake up to the fact that you're running after an ideal, and in that awakening, you're free. You can see it, and suddenly the seer, the watcher, is more awake. Does it make sense? Yeah. Ursula Norberg, I just see you made so many beautiful hearts here, all colorful. So, rather than keep on talking, well, maybe just to complete the ideal story, what I did, and I would actually recommend it unless you're totally living an awakened and happy and present life without too many conflicts. If you want to investigate into your ego psyche, your person, your personality, then I would suggest get a diary, and every day, whenever you remember in any situation, write down the ideals that underlie this situation. We have this thought, for example, I should remember that tomorrow I have a session at 6 o'clock. No problem when the memory comes and the session is there. Now, many people, and me including sometimes, I get anxious about it because I don't know whether my mind is so clearly remembering every appointment, so I don't want to miss it. So how can we deal with it on a practical level? Well, very simple. Have a diary and write it in. Then the next step is, of course, don't forget to read your diary of the moment of the morning, to see. How did we get there? So yes, write down every ideal and then immediately find the opposite in it, Right now, I should be cooking a really nice meal, and all I do is I give chips to my kids. Yeah. So I should not give chips to my kids, but I have given chips to my kids. So now you feel guilty, you suffer, and you not only suffer yourself, you also make your kids suffer because they have been told chips are bad, so you shouldn't eat chips. And then you eat chips, and you give your kids chips, and then we have a huge problem. Starting with a certain ideal. And it's very strong. I sometimes buy these salty chips from Aldi, and I keep them in my car. And then in some desperate moments, it's such a joy to consciously, mess it up, open the chip and crunch it. What a joy. And the least ideal, the more joy. And then even chips can become really healthy because they bring joy. And joy is a healing factor for many things. So, write down your ideals. Write behind it what you should not. And then investigate into your resistance. And see how tense it makes your body. How painful it makes different areas of the body, how much tension we create in the should nots through guilt. All these things, they manifest not just in the psyche but in the body also. So, I think it's time to go to just be a little present now. It's time. Maybe we share a pomanda to bring the attention back to what is here now, back to the isness of now. And then we have a meditation. For those of you who don't know Arasoma, it's a beautiful color care system that helps to turn your attention inward and adjusting or attuning to a different frequency according to the different colors. And today the color is turquoise. Turquoise is between the heart and the throat. So it means communication through the heart and then to many beings. This is what hopefully happens today. I don't know how many beings are following us tonight, but it's beautiful that we can be together, and I feel many friends watching. And the communication from the heart is not communication from the personality, not from the head, but from the present moment awareness, from the compassion of this moment, from the love to what is. And whenever we hear somebody sharing from that space, it touches us, it moves us. But we have that quality, all of us. So we're going to have a little ritual, and you're going to receive 2 three virtual drops of the turquoise pomander into your left hand. Then we rub them together and we clear our aura with it. So if you could all stand up and make your left palm available. And if you have the pomander at home, use it. Otherwise, energy follows thought. You can imagine and it works. So 3 drops on your left palm. And when you receive the 3 drops, rub them into your hands and close your eyes. And just feel for a moment into that frequency. Turquoise is also that frequency of the ocean, of the water, of the dolphins. And then you can raise your arms high above the head, your palms facing outward, and give it away to the world. Just imagine that we can send this turquoise ray around the planet, touching all beings, reminding all beings of their capacity to express the truth of the heart through your voice, through your creativity, through your own expression. And then you can bring your palms above your crown. Imagine you're standing or sitting under a shower of turquoise light, falling through your aura like gentle rain. And then as you come closer to the energy field around your head, you can clear and clean your aura through the temples, through the back of the head, through the frontal area, and bringing your palms together above the crown, the symbolic gesture of oneness, where the opposites can meet as complementaries. And then when you move to the third eye, you can open your palms here and imagine you can open the curtain of your identifications. The third eye usually creates this false sense of identity until we see reality as it is. Now imagine that that identity can be pulled to the side, and we actually can begin to see reality as it is, with no interpretation needed. Then you can clear your face. And when we come to the throat, we come to another curtain, the curtain of our beliefs. Who are we without our beliefs? We don't know. So in the throat, when we go behind the person, we move into not knowing. And out of not knowing, all true creativity is emerging. all true expression is emerging. Feeling your throat relaxing and open. Because very often when we hold the throat, we cannot actually speak what we know is true. So let it open through the turquoise, so we can experience a new and spontaneous, relaxed creativity. Moving through the shoulders and arms. Until you come to the heart. And here another layer, another curtain can open. Here the layer of our ideals that we talked about. The heart has its innate quality of compassion and goodness. But when the person kidnaps that, it moves into good and bad, right and wrong. So let the person step a few steps backward and allow yourself to connect with the natural compassion in your heart. Allowing your hands to rest over your heart for a moment. And feeling the response to that turquoise vibration. And then you can move on to the solar plexus. And here, with the turquoise, with that wonderful oceanic color, you can undo your armors, undo your strategies of separation. What are they? Comparison, competition, judgments, blame, inferiority, superiority, and all the stress of holding it together. Just imagine that through the turquoise we can just lay it all down and open to the uniqueness of the expression of our being. We all have a unique personality, or many unique personalities. And the less identified we are, the more we are in the flow of life. And we can enjoy our uniqueness. And that opens us to wisdom. And then we can come to the second chakra, to the lower belly. And the turquoise, that wonderful, clear ocean water, can connect with our free-flowing capacity to feel. And the turquoise can gently melt and wash away all our traumas, because traumas are really past experiences that have lodged themselves as beliefs in the mind, and they appear to be real because they are so painful. And yet who we are, this whole existence, this vastness, can naturally hold and absorb all suffering, all fear, all unworthiness, and all the personality problems. And then we can just be open to all sensations. And further down to the first chakra, to the root center, with the turquoise opening to that natural life energy that keeps this wonderful body vital and alive. And all the way down until you touch Mother Earth. And this is a good moment to let go. Let go of everything you know. Let go of everything you think you are. Just let it rest aside for a moment. All that you know, all that you define yourself, give it to the earth, so that for a few moments you can be completely empty. And you will notice that even when you're totally empty, you are still here. And what is this you? That is the only reality. Nobody has ever been able to give it a real name. It has many names, but it's nameless. And now, as you come up, just allow that turquoise ray rise inside your body, all the way up. And for a moment, opening your arms in this gesture of open presence. And then cupping your palms in front of your nostrils. And taking 3 deep breaths of this fragrance into the temple of the body. And then, if you're not already sitting, you can sit back down. And tonight I want to dedicate the light of the candle to the recognition of the isness of things for all of us, which is at the same time healing, returning to wholeness. So be it. And then you can close your eyes. And we have a meditation. Now, whatever has been said and whatever you heard, let it go. And turn in. Just allow the presence of this moment to take you deeper and deeper. Deeper than thoughts. Deeper than feelings. Deeper than our story. Deeper than our body sensations. deeper than the breath, deeper than the heartbeat, deeper than all experiences. And rest here. As each out-breath continues to take you deeper. We will sit for about 15 minutes. No goal, no becoming, no going anywhere, no hope, no regret, nothing that we normally keep in the realm of human experience. Deeper than all that, we are. feel this peace. It has always been here, behind all events, within. Feel the silence. Perhaps you can sense this subtle joy for no reason. Or perhaps a sense of gratitude for just being here. And in a moment when you come back from the depths of meditation, bring with you the fragrance of the inner. You can take a deeper breath now, gently moving the body, maybe stretching. Until you find a good moment to open your eyes to a very new moment here. Yes. Now, I don't know, have there been any questions that we still have a few minutes? If there's any questions, Millie will have a look. If some of you have written something, or if a spontaneous question or comment is coming up, please feel free.
I think you were talking about physical pain, and Pratiksha Katerina.
Oh, Pratiksha, yes.
So she's struggling with intense pain in her back and pelvis for 6 weeks. She can only walk in slow motion for 20 minutes, so painful. So I guess it's hard to let go of that pain.
I think physical pain is one of the bigger challenges. Melly just read that Pratiksha, you have such a deep back pain. So, of course, you will probably do whatever you can do to alleviate on the medical side of things. And with the physical body, we are very close to it. I think that's our biggest identification. If you can manage, if you can find, sometimes a position where there is space enough to absorb or welcome or invite the pain. Now, everything in us wants to get rid of the pain, and yet when we manage to relinquish all resistance. It's almost like giving it to the divine, giving it to existence. Obviously, we don't have a choice on the deepest level. Then perhaps you can find this space where the pain is not personal anymore. And of course, on the physical side, with physiotherapy or with massage, there are many healing modalities that can support your inner relaxation. But I understand. I mean, this is the challenge. Physical pain, I think, is the biggest challenge, because we are naturally more identified with the body. But you may have moments where you realize, wait a minute, who is aware of the pain? What is that is aware? Is that painful? Can I hold that pain in the deepest tenderness of who I am? And then there is this beautiful meditation called reminding yourself of the forgotten language of talking to the body. You can find it on the internet. It's a beautiful guidance where you make even more friends with the body and let the body tell you what it needs. It's an Osho meditation. You will find it on the internet, and it's a beautiful guidance where you give the opportunity to the body to speak and to answer. And maybe in this very moment, all of us who are in this meeting, in this virtual meeting, maybe we can all kind of send Pratiksha many blessings of healing, blessings of relaxation, blessings of surrender. One of the things that come to me very recently, very often, when the personality struggles with something, is the question, can I absorb that also? I know it's not easy with physical pain, but it's possible. Can I absorb it? Can I be the space for it? Can I allow it? Can I allow the pain itself give me some indication what would work to alleviate it? Just feel this for a moment. Just this very moment where we include everything that is. Then the field of presence we all create is like a womb where all can be welcome. Yeah. Yes, beloveds. So whatever is happening, thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. for supporting that opportunity to be present. It's a gift. It's a gift for me, and hopefully for many of you, just so we can remind each other of the love, of the space, of the grace that we are. All is well. Have a beautiful rest of the evening or of the day, and next Friday we have another Satsang, inshallah. Be well and many blessings. Nisande and Rebecca. Namaste, dear friends.